Hi Woodwind Fest, thank you so much for joining us for this seminar on how to look after your woodwind instrument. My name's Hannah.
I'm Luke.
And we are from the British band Instrument Company. If you couldn't tell by our accent and I guess our name as well, we're from England, London specifically. And we're here today to talk to you about how to best look after your woodwind instrument. What we're going to do is go through the key reasons why you should be doing that, even though I guess at the moment with everything going on it's a little bit obvious. And then also we're going to have a Q&A session with questions submitted from you guys. Thank you so much for sending those in to us, and we're going to work our way through them.
Yeah, we've got some great questions submitted, and we're really looking forward to going through some key questions that have cropped up over the last week or so.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. Luke, do you want to start by introducing who BBICO are, or the British Band Instrument Company?
Of course. So, British Band Instrument Company are based in North London in the UK, and we were established around about 11-12 years ago. Our primary focus has been most recently supplying musical instruments and accessories, marching drums into the Middle East and Africa, and supplying government departments and military bands in those regions. More recently, we've set up a couple of new brands, one of which is Edgware by BBICO, and we'll be focusing a lot on the Edgware range today.
Yeah, exactly, hence these wonderful t-shirts. And we're actually based in Edgware. That's where we are right now, in our office. So if we get lost, we'll be able to be returned safely back home again. But our new brand of musical instrument maintenance products is also called Edgware, because there's quite a big history of musical instrument manufacture based in this part of London, which is fab. But going back to what Edgware, or who Edgware is, it's a range of musical instrument maintenance products for woodwind and brass instruments, but of course all woodwind today, no brass speak at all, and they are all designed and packaged here in the UK. We don't use any toxins, synthetics or petroleums, and all of our packaging is recyclable, compostable and biodegradable too. So yeah, trying to basically come out with something very different for the industry and move forward to some healthier alternatives for you, your instrument and also your planet.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun over the last few months launching the range. We actually launched the range at the NAMM show in January, and over the last few months we've been really getting stuck into setting up dealers in various territories all over the world. And yeah, really excited about the new this new range and what it offers the end consumer.
And excited to be here. This is our first ever virtual trade show, so thank you so much Woodwind Fest for having us. And without further ado, Luke, let's talk through why it's really important to look after our instruments.
Yeah, so we have broken this down into 4 key sections. Hannah, do you want to fire away from the first?
Yeah, the first couple. Yeah, go for it. So, sound. Woodwind instruments have been designed to emanate sound waves, and that's how we're creating music. And a well-maintained instrument is always going to sound better. So basically, if we're lessening our instrument's ability to vibrate, we're going to be lessening its sound. So we don't want to be doing that at all. The other point that we have is function. So even the smallest issue with our woodwind instrument can impact how we play it. Sometimes it's something that we notice and we take it to our repair tech and they get it all sorted out, or sometimes it's something that we don't even realise is happening and we end up developing these bad habits trying to compensate for a mechanical fault, which it just isn't necessary. And if we're keeping an eye that our instrument is functioning as it should be, then it's going to play better as well.
That makes sense, absolutely. Next up we have value. So if you're really looking after your instrument, you're keeping it well maintained, you're cleaning it properly, you're swabbing your lovely clarinet after each use, in time you're ultimately going to be maintaining the value in that instrument. So when it comes to moving that instrument on, or say upgrading to another clarinet, you're keeping the value of that instrument as high as possible, which is ultimately very important for us as individuals and players.
Definitely.
And finally, it's ultimately important to focus on the enjoyment that having an instrument that's well maintained and well looked after brings you as a player. So if your instrument is properly maintained and properly looked after, then ultimately you will play better, you will sound better, and you'll ultimately be a happier musician.
Exactly, and who doesn't want that right now, or any time, but especially right now. So those are our key 4 points for why you should be looking after your instrument. Before we go into the Q&A section, I think it's just important to highlight that what we think is really key is that we're not sharing instruments, and that we're cleaning and looking after them, as we've already mentioned. But yeah, let's move on to the Q&A section with the questions that you guys have submitted.
Let's get stuck in.
Okay, let's get started. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll fire away the first question.
Hope you like our table, our saxophone case table right here.
Saxophone case stand. First question is from Helena in the Czech Republic. Thank you, Helena, for your question. Helena asked, how often should I be cleaning my instrument?
Oh, great one to start with, and pretty quick and simple to answer as well. Every time you've played it. Yeah, whether you've played for 5 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, done a really long concert, and because we're wind musicians, we're blowing down the instrument and we're blowing lots of different things down there. And we want to be making sure that we're cleaning it every time that we've finished playing. Really important.
Great. First simple question to start off with.
Oh, and actually, as an aside, before I forget, when I say cleaning our instrument, I mean like pulling through. So using a pull through to remove any moisture that's going to be inside your instrument. And if you play something like clarinet, for example, making sure that you're still taking it apart and cleaning inside. So in those sockets where the kind of our barrel meets the top joint, for example, so where the tenons are, making sure that we're also drying inside. So inside here, for example, because we often get moisture collecting there. And we want to make sure that it's nice and dry before we put it back in its case. I said it was a quick and easy one and then I rambled, so next question.
Go for it.
Okay, right. So this is Alina from Germany. Thank you for your question, Alina. How can I sanitize my mouthpiece?
Very good question. I think we're going to do a quick run through this question.
Definitely. So let me just grab a mouthpiece. Okay, got the clarinet one here. Essentially what you want to be doing is using a sanitizer spray that's specifically designed for woodwind or brass instrument mouthpieces, to make sure that you're cleaning it properly when you've finished playing. There are loads of different ones on the market currently, but we have one in our new Edgware range, so it's our sanitizer spray by Edgware by BBICO. And essentially all you want to do is spray the mouthpiece completely. It's only going to sanitize the areas that it actually comes into contact with, so you want to be quite generous. I'm soaking the cards. Good start.
Sanitizing the cards as well. That's
exactly. But I'm keeping the cork covered so we're not getting the cork wet. So that's the most important thing.
Very important.
Clarinet mouthpiece over Q&A cards all day, every day. And then what our sanitizer does actually is you want to leave it on for 60 seconds. That's how long it's going to take to kill all of the germs and bacteria and things, and then rinse it off with water. Which we don't have here at the moment in our office, but I will be doing that later. And what's really great about this sanitizer is that it's alcohol free. It also doesn't have any nasty petroleums or synthetics or anything like that. It actually uses something called hypochlorous acid. We're not going to get too sciencey here, but it's something that's produced naturally in the human body that kills 99.9999% of germs in 60 seconds. So that's 6 nines in total. A lot of nines.
So we're hearing a lot from the end consumer, parents, teachers, that they really like the sanitizer spray because it can actually be used by children, and parents don't have to worry about the spray being left because there is no alcoholic content, so that's pretty key, pretty important.
That's great. And there's no fragrance either, no perfume or anything like that, and we've been using it as a hand sanitizer in the office.
Yeah, doubles up very nicely.
It's great. We've all got one on our desk, ready to use as and when, which is very important at the moment with everything going on, whether you're playing musical instruments or not. It's handy to have.
Definitely.
Okay, good question. Thank you, Alina.
Great question. Next up, Lara in Brazil. What's the best way to look after the corks on my oboe? Very good question.
Okay, fantastic. Well, really sorry to the oboe players out there, we don't have an oboe here right now, but we do have a selection of woodwind instruments, and I'm sure we can demonstrate with a clarinet. So essentially, the best way of looking after your corks, it's almost twofold. So firstly, we can ourselves as a player be regularly using a cork grease to kind of moisturise the corks on our instrument, whether it's an oboe, saxophone, clarinet, recorder, any of those woodwind instruments, but also if we're having our instrument regularly checked over by a technician, so when our cork actually starts to compress and needs replacing, that's also done. But we can look after it in the meantime. So I've deliberately chosen, cover your ears, a clarinet that's got a very dry cork, so I don't know if you can hear that.
It's a bit squeaky.
Yeah, it's not a particularly nice sound, but I've deliberately chosen it for the purpose of this video. So if it gets to this point, you definitely know you need to be sanitizer on the brain, greasing your corks. I'm so cat-candid. So what you want to be doing is just putting a very little amount just on the cork, just there, and then using just your fingers to kind of rub that in. And we can always add more afterwards, so always start with a little bit to begin with. There's loads of different cork greases on the market, and they're normally in these really handy little tubes that just fit in your case, so you can always have them on the go. What I really love about this one here is that it doesn't contain any petroleum, so it actually doesn't end up drying out your corks, so this will last me a lot longer than some of the other cork greases available that do have petroleums in them. And another product that we use in the office, it also works as a lip balm.
Yeah, it works very well, especially good for these. We're currently in winter, or going into winter shortly. We're currently in the autumn, actually. I tell a lie. But as it gets colder, lip balm is very useful to have as well. So it doubles up very nicely.
Love a good multi-purpose product. And then also just making sure that you've got rid of anything that might have slipped down onto the actual body of your instrument, just with a care cloth or something like that. And that works very nicely. No sound at all. And now my logo's not lining up. It's always frustrating. Yeah, let us know. Drop us a message. Are you insistent that your logos all match up on your instrument? I'm curious to know if anyone's as pernickety as me. Okay, brilliant. So that is cork grease. Fantastic. Right, let's give this another go. Okay, right, Jessica here in the UK, okay, not far away. How do I remove the sticky stuff left behind by my mouthpiece patch?
Ooh, the sticky stuff.
It's a good one, it is a good one. And I have a mouthpiece here, especially for this purpose, with a mouthpiece patch on that I can remove. So it's a great question, and what we want to do is whenever we're replacing our mouthpiece patch, we want to make sure that we clean our mouthpiece properly before we then put another one on there. So if I remove that patch just there, and what we like to really use is any kind of cooking oil, so anything that you have in the kitchen, and then just getting yourself a toothbrush like so, preferably not the one that you use for your teeth. So we've actually labelled one here with an O on for oil, so we know that definitely I'm not going to be taking that one home with me and using before I go to bed this evening. And actually, rather than cooking oil, we have a boar oil that we might talk about a little bit later, which also functions really well for this purpose. So you just want to put a little bit of oil just on your mouthpiece and gently rub. And what that's going to do is it's going to get rid of the sticky residue left by your mouthpiece patch. And then what we can do is rinse that with water or go in with our sanitizer spray. Leave that on for the 60 seconds, as I said earlier, rinse it off, and that's going to get rid of that kind of sticky stuff that's left over by your mouthpiece patch. Wait for it to dry and then stick the next one back on again.
So you mentioned oils that you could typically find in your kitchen, so sunflower, vegetable oil, maybe
olive oil,
rapeseed oil,
yeah,
potentially. Anything
like that. As long as you're removing it properly afterwards, that oil's just going to take that kind of tackiness away.
Just eases it off.
Yeah, exactly. So anything that you've got in your kitchen will work well.
Great, fantastic. Next up.
This is good, it's good. It's like a quiz.
Manuel in Spain, thank you for your question. I have some build-up on my sax mouthpiece. What should I do about it?
Okay, lots of mouthpiece questions
yes.
today. Yeah, and actually, this is a very old mouthpiece, so we know exactly what you're talking about, Manuel. What you often get is calcium deposits building up generally on the sides of your mouthpiece. That is completely normal. The best way to eradicate that completely, I guess, is just make sure that you're always wiping down and sanitizing your mouthpiece after you've played. So there won't be any build up there because there's nothing left to build up, essentially. But you know, these things happen. If you do have this on your mouthpiece, we recommend using white vinegar. And again, you can go in with a toothbrush, a different one. So this one's got a V on it for vinegar, so we're not getting any oil near the mouthpiece when we're doing this. Yeah, actually, why don't we give it a go? So we've got some vinegar here, and now our office is going to stink for the rest of the video.
Some more vinegar here. Other brands are available.
Yeah, exactly. Not sponsored, nothing like that. Okay, fantastic. So what we want to do is just get a little bit of vinegar on our toothbrush, but again, not the toothbrush that we normally use. And then we can just kind of rub away like this. It might take a little while to kind of break that down. That usually works quite nicely. And again, you're going to want to rinse that off for multiple reasons, because otherwise your mouthpiece is going to smell. You don't want it to start harming the actual ebonite or metal or anything like that. Not metal's going to be pretty robust, but ebonite in particular, or plastic mouthpiece. And also, next time you go to play your instrument, you're not going to want it tasting like vinegar. Would not be ideal.
Not
ideal. Again, go in with your sanitizer and then rinse that off with water, and you'll be good to go.
It's looking a lot better.
It is.
Looking really good.
Fantastic. Right, should we do another question? We pop
Next
that down. Got loads of stuff spread out here. Okay, so Dina from Greece. Why are your products so expensive?
Oh, good question.
It's a good question.
Our products are more expensive than potential competitor products. Ultimately, we're trying to position our products differently in comparison to a lot of the rest of the market. They are made in the UK. We don't have any petroleum content within our product. They're made in smaller quantities, and all of the products are packaged in a eco-friendly with an eco-friendly perspective. So all products are
Can I help you out?
Yes, please.
As soon as there's a camera in front of you, my brain just turns into absolute mush. Yeah, but essentially all of our packaging is recyclable, compostable, or biodegradable. It's a shame we don't actually have an example here, which was an oversight on our part. But if you go over to our web store for Woodwind Fest, there'll be pictures of the products in their packaging that you can check out as well. But I think something that we have to address price-wise is that whichever industry you're looking at, whether you're looking at sustainable clothing, electric cars, for example, it's a really vicious cycle. So the prices are high because they're made in low quantities. So basically the demand has to increase first for then basically products to be produced on a mass scale, but that can't happen yet because the products are more expensive and the demand isn't as high. It's this kind of cycle, but yeah, essentially our hope is that as more and more musicians are becoming more environmentally conscious, they'll be looking for products like this. And also we want to encourage the rest of the industry to start looking at their packaging and also the contents in their products. So for example, sanitizer sprays, most do contain alcohol, which isn't going to be suitable for use by young children. And also lots of them have warnings on the side of the bottles saying, if ingested, contact toxin control or consult your doctor immediately. And when you're thinking about spraying that on a mouthpiece, for example, and then putting that straight in your mouth, it's something that worries us a little bit. So our wider hope and goal is that we'll encourage the rest of the music products industry to start thinking about their environmental impact. But yes, thanks for the question, Dina. It's a good one.
Absolutely.
We're working on it.
And just to expand on that a little bit as well, we've had a number of conversations with end consumers and dealers, and we like to remind them, or we like to discuss the fact that a lot of these products they have natural ingredients. So therefore, if you're using, for example, our natural cork grease, you're going to actually you're only going to need less of an application in comparison to, say, a competitor product that doesn't contain all natural product. So that cork grease, for example, should in theory last a lot longer than the potential equivalent.
Yeah. So let's carry on. Okay, so Luis from Mexico, thank you for your question. How can I keep the outside of my instrument looking amazing?
Very good question, very good question. So, how would you typically keep your clarinet looking nice and shiny and clean?
Yeah, I mean, generally just making sure that you're looking after it and giving it a nice wipe down after you've finished playing. So if I pick up a flute, for example, however long we're playing for, we have oils in our skin that are going to transfer onto our actual instrument, and depending on what these are made up of, everyone is slightly different. These can occasionally damage our instrument, so it's always really nice just to give our flute, our oboe, saxophone, clarinet, whatever you're playing, a nice wipe down, either with a general kind of eclair cloth, or I really love this one here, not only because it's a nice colour, but this is our silver polishing cloth. So this actually leaves an anti-tarnish coating on the instrument that's going to kind of prolong your polishing efforts, and going to remove any tarnish on there. And the best way of removing any tarnish is basically don't leave your instrument out on a stand. There's loads of reasons for that. Often we don't end up cleaning our instrument properly or drying it, particularly between the joints, so in those sockets where our tenons are, if we're just finishing playing and popping it on our stand basically. But also they can get dusty, they can tarnish if they're left out in the open air, or even, I guess, worse is being knocked over, either by yourself if you've forgotten it's there, if you've got younger siblings, pets are prime suspects a lot of the time. So yeah, just make sure that you're putting your instrument away when you finish playing and just giving it a very quick wipe down, even if it's just for 10-20 seconds, just to get rid of anything that's left on the keywork or on the body of the instrument. Thanks for the question.
Great question.
Okay, right. Let's do another one. Okay, Naomi from Japan. Does your sanitizer spray kill COVID?
Very good question. Thank you for your question, Naomi. The answer to that is we believe that sanitizer spray is very effective against most enveloped viruses. However, we cannot claim that it's effective against COVID-19 because the strain of the virus is not available for commercial testing, so therefore we're not able to make that claim at all.
Yeah, so basically any of COVID-19 that is currently available for any experiments is being used to test for vaccines. That's the priority at the moment for I think everybody, but that does mean that all of your either instrument sanitizer sprays, your wipes, your hand soaps, none of those have actually been tested against COVID-19. However, as Luke said, ours is effective against lots of other things, including other human coronaviruses. It's a bit of a mouthful. So we are hopeful that ours would also be effective against COVID-19 because it's the same structure as other human coronaviruses, but that hasn't been proven yet. As soon as COVID-19 is available for commercial testing, that's something that of course we're going to do, so we can definitively say yes or no. Sorry, we can't give you the answer that everyone's wanting at the moment, but no one can currently, so we've just got to wait it out, hopefully have a vaccine soon.
Absolutely.
Good question though, and you're definitely not the first one to ask. We get it all the time.
Very good question. Next up we have Bernadette in Scotland. What's the big deal with boar oil? Do I really have to use it? Oh. Very good question. What is the big deal with boar oil?
It's the big deal with boar oil. Well, I mean, I think boar oil is great. Not everyone uses it. It's not always necessary. But when you have a brand new wooden instrument, again, this is only wooden instrument, so not if you've got a plastic clarinet, for example, it's important that you're treating that wood. It will be brand new to you, it won't be used to being played as an instrument, so the wood isn't necessarily going to be as used to expanding as it gets warmer and contracting as it gets cooler again. So by treating that wood, you're going to inhibit cracking and warping, and we don't want either of those things, especially when we have a new instrument. So I'd recommend using it on a new instrument once a week for the first couple of months, and then once every fortnight or so for the foreseeable. If you've got a second-hand instrument, like myself personally, I've never had a new a new instrument where all mine have been kind of blown in beforehand, which is really handy. So I just use it maybe once every 1 to 2 months, so not that often. Traditionally what would have been used is linseed oil. So what that does is it leaves a very hard coating down the bore of the instrument, so down the inside of your woodwind instrument, which kind of avoids and prevents the wood from reacting as it would do naturally. Whereas if you use a hydrophilic oil, like this one that we have here, it actually gets into the fibres, so the fibres end up being moisturised by the oil, and that's going to improve the tone of the instrument over time, and who doesn't want that? And this one here I really like. So this one has like lavender oil, English lavender oil in fact actually, which is really lovely, but the scent will go away within a couple of days. But the best way of using it is to just get yourself an old pull through, so not one that you're currently using for drying your instrument. You also don't want to do this as soon as you've played, because you don't want to kind of be trapping that moisture inside your instrument. And you just want to put a few drops on your pull through, kind of wring it through so you're distributing it nicely through the cloth, and then just pull it through your instrument several times. You'll be able to actually see, if you hold your instrument up to the light, for example, you'll be able to see this nice sheen inside the bore of your instrument where the oil is coating it, which is quite handy. So a little top tip there, and I would recommend using boar oil.
So you never use boar oil straight after playing? You generally use boar oil maybe the next time you got the instrument out of your case, potentially? Potentially,
I would probably recommend just oiling it not before you play and not afterwards. So away from any of your practice sessions or any of your performances, so that we're not locking any of that moisture in.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, right, let's try another one. Can't remember whose turn it is. Keep going.
It's your turn.
Okay, right, Vicky from England, so not far away. Which products are safe to give to my 8-year-old? And I'm going to assume she means products in general, so across the whole industry, which is safe to give to her 8-year-old.
Very good question. Well, if you look at the Edgware range, I can comfortably say that all products would be safe to be used by your 8-year-old. The whole range has been designed specifically so that there are no nasty chemicals, no nasty petroleums contained within the range. So you can be safe in the knowledge to know that any ingredients contained within any of the liquids would be safe, even if they were consumed by accident by a child. You wouldn't have any issues.
Yeah, I would just add to that, just look at the labels on any products that you're buying. It's something that I think we've already mentioned that surprised us when we were kind of doing research, and as a consumer myself of some of these accessories, when you actually start reading the labels on things, it's quite surprising. The petroleum content, toxins, warning labels on them as well.
Some really severe looking warnings from time to time that we see within our industry, so that is something to look out for.
Exactly. And for example, if you're using like a sanitizer spray to sanitize your mouthpiece, if it's got a warning saying contact your doctor if it's been ingested, do you really want to be putting that near your mouth? Just asking questions like that, really. But if you have any specific questions about the contents of at least any of our products, then we'd be more than happy to answer them, and we feel like any other manufacturer or brand should be the same, so don't feel afraid to reach out to people to ask what's contained in different things, because you have the right to know. So keep asking the important questions.
Yeah, very good question. Fantastic. Okay, next question.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is from Francesco in Italy. Francesco, thank you for your question. Francesco said, my keys are really, really noisy. What can I do to stop the clicking?
Oh, okay.
Why would the keys be noisy? Do they need a bit of easing with something?
Yeah, so it's something that's quite common, and even though it's a common thing to happen to people, it's very frustrating. There's nothing more annoying as you're playing and hearing all this rattling going on. More frequent with older instruments, but it just does happen with general usage. But the easiest way to eradicate that essentially is to use something like a key oil, and what that does is it lubricates the moving parts in the key work of your instrument essentially. So what you want to do, yeah, still got it, is use a key oil which has got quite a thin nozzle up here, so you can be a little bit more precise, and basically you won't be able to see on here, but we'll be uploading more detailed videos onto our own website if you want to check those out at some point, where the pillars meet the rest of the key, somewhere like here for example. So anywhere where you've got moving parts, where you've got that clicky noise, you can lubricate using something like a key oil. I really like this one because it's made from all natural ingredients and they're actually all food grade, so if you wanted to you could drink it. Wouldn't taste great, wouldn't recommend it, but it's not going to do you any harm. But yeah, just really one that's got this fine nozzle at the top, and also always have a cloth such as this care cloth handy, so that if you do get any excess oil on any other part of your instrument you can quickly just wipe it off, and it's not going to be left on there.
Yeah, another benefit of the fact that our oils are food grade is that they are much easier to move around, so we get lots of good feedback from dealers that they like that our products do not contain petroleums, because often petroleum based oils can be very difficult to move around and ship to customers and import, etc. So that's a big plus.
Yeah, that's so true. If you're a dealer, definitely drop us a message. We'd love to have a chat with you. And talking of shipping things around, it's great to be part of Woodwind Fest this year, because we're able to offer international shipping for everyone for our products, which we haven't been able to do up until this point. We've got different dealers scattered across the globe. We're covering a few continents now, ticking different places off. We've got a lovely scratch map in the office. It's very exciting when we get to get our coin out and mark somewhere on the map. But yeah, this is the first time that we're able to ship everywhere.
Yeah, very exciting times, and yeah, very good.
Yeah. Right, let's keep going. Only a few more to go. Okay, David from the US. My pads are really sticky. What's the solution? This is another really annoying thing as a wind player, getting sticky pads. Now I guess, what's the solution, David? There's two. There's one to try and not get sticky pads in the first place, and then there's what to do when you have them. So what to do when you have them, we recommend using something like powder paper. And essentially what you want to do is identify the culprit, the sticky pad, and it'll be very easy to do. You'll realise as you're playing certain notes which key is clicking. So for example, I want to use like the C sharp, G sharp key on the clarinet. We want to lift it up, insert the powder paper underneath. Sometimes it can help to just rest our finger on top of the pad cup, just to add a little bit of additional pressure, but not too much. We don't want to tear the powder paper and let it get stuck underneath the tone hole or anything. And then we just pull the paper away. So there's actually you won't be able to, I can't even see from here, and there's a very fine powder that's coating the top of this. And what we do when we're doing this action just here is we move that powder onto the skin of the pad, and that's going to remove any of that kind of stickiness and in turn that noise. Obviously on saxophone, typical with your G sharp key, not only do sticky pads kind of make that kind of suction kind of noise, but it can also be really frustrating if the note that you're trying to play isn't the note that ends up coming out and it's not your fault. In terms of not getting sticky pads in the first place, as we play an instrument there's going to be general wear and tear, so it's really important to take it to your repair tech frequently to get it looked over. But key things to remember is not to kind of drink fizzy drinks or eat lots of sweets before you play. If anything, you probably shouldn't be eating directly before you play, or brush your teeth first, because then what you're doing is you're just blowing all of that stuff down your instrument, and that ends up coating the inside of the instrument, and in turn is going to coat those pads, and that's why they can get quite sticky quite quickly.
Yeah, leave that Coke or Pepsi or whatever you're drinking out before playing. It's a big recommendation for sure.
Yeah, and if you want to have a drink as you're practicing, just a bottle of water is fine. Preferably in a reusable bottle.
Absolutely.
Okay, fab.
Next
Penultimate question.
This is from Polina in Russia. How can I keep my case clean? Very good question, Polina. Thank you for your question. Well, our sanitizer spray also doubles up very nicely to be used for cases. So a few sprays of our sanitizer spray within your case or onto the inside of your case could work very well for minimising any nasty smells or any signs of bacteria. What else would you suggest, Hannah?
I mean, I think that's a really great one. It will just freshen up your case essentially. Also just not keeping random bits and pieces inside your case. It's something that I'm always a little bit guilty of, collecting different bits and pieces, but keeping as little clutter inside your case as possible. If you are going to have oils and cork greases and things, what have we got? Let me see. I keep mine in like a Tupperware little pot. The lid's somewhere else at the moment, just in case anything is going to leak. It's not going to go on my instruments. And then also any bits and pieces, so screwdrivers, powder paper, cork grease. Sometimes I'll keep inside one little pouch. So
outside of your case, completely separate?
It depends. So if my clarinet case, it's got like a side pocket, which is really handy, so I keep lots of different bits and pieces in there, which is really great. But I would try and refrain from keeping small things inside the compartment that your instrument goes in, just in case something ends up moving and then pressing against a key. You don't want to have any damage or anything like that. And speaking of damage in cases, sometimes, well, I say sometimes, if possible, it's always good to invest in a good case. It doesn't matter how expensive or cheap your instrument is. Our instruments are all very precious to us. They're special and we want to look after them, whatever their value. And a key part of that is keeping it in a nice sturdy case, so preferably not soft cases, because any bumps can cause quite significant problems and then end up costing you more money in the long run. So yeah, investing in a good case and keeping it relatively clutter-free and with no leaks anywhere.
And also, just to expand on that, ultimately, if you don't have a load of stuff stuffed into your case, it's ultimately gonna keep the case doing its job in the way that it should do, just keeping the instrument in place, well protected, and also maintaining a certain level of airflow for the instrument. So you're not going to be trapping any nasty smells and bacteria in the case unnecessarily.
Definitely, and looking after your case and not overfilling it. I've got quite a few friends who will pile music into their cases and then the zips will break or the straps will go. So yeah, just being a bit mindful of what you're keeping in there, what's necessary and what's not. Multi-purpose products like cork greases that act as lip balms.
Yeah,
things
perfect.
like that. Okay, last question.
Final question.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, this is from Laura in Switzerland. How often do I need to have my instrument serviced?
Very good question. I would say, and this is a guess here, I'm going to say once a year would be fair to recommend.
Yeah.
Servicing wise?
Yeah, I think so. It's really difficult because it really depends on several things. So how often you're playing, how well you look after your instrument between services. I think I would always recommend that you get your instrument looked at by a repair technician once a year. And it might be that they look at it and say, oh no, it's great, you don't need any work done, and that's fine. It might be a couple of pads need replacing, because pads are all going to need replacing at different points. Some are going to be used more often than others. Or it might be that you need a service, a full repad. You shouldn't really need a full repad every year unless you're doing loads and loads of playing. But yeah, always, if in doubt, take it to your repair tech. I don't like doing any repairs on my instruments. My chosen repairer, her name's Abby, and she's fantastic, and it's just really nice to be able to trust someone who knows exactly what they're doing. So looking after your instrument properly is never going to be a replacement for getting it looked at by a professional and having a service, for example. So definitely do still do that, but you'll reduce the number of services that you need if you're maintaining your instrument properly in between.
Absolutely. No, I would definitely... I don't know what I'm saying here.
We're on the last card. We're on the last card. It's a very grey, miserable day today. But yeah, we've come to the end. So thank you so much to those of you that submitted your questions. And if you didn't get a chance to submit them in time but would still like to ask us anything, then I believe there's a live chat function on the Woodwind Fest portal, so to speak. So do feel free to come and ask us any questions. If we're in a different time zone and we are asleep at the time, we promise we will get back to you as soon as we're back at our desks. And feel free to follow us on social media as well. We're always responding to questions on there, and you might find the answer over on our website too.
Absolutely. Feel free to engage with us throughout the festival and beyond, and we look forward to talking to you all very soon, and enjoy the show.
Thanks guys, bye.